Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's pre-market prep, brought to you by Market 5. I'm your co-host, Joel Alconin, along with Brianna Valesky, and we have Scott Redler on the line, Chief Strategist at T3 Live and T3 Trading Group. Scott, last week you said, what was it? It was like, watch out or be ready. But this week, you got chicken time. So tell us about chicken time here in the market.
Well, chicken time refers more to what's going on in Greece and how they've been playing chicken for the past couple of years, and it seems like we're getting close to the splatter. And at this point, the splatter could be Greece leaving more than getting a deal. Last week was be ready that if support held, we can get some type of move, and we wound up getting that move. And now all of a sudden, I guess the market's playing a little chicken also, where on Thursday, you had that peak into resistance, a little weakness Friday, and now we're down open. So it makes for a very interesting open. I'm thinking that traders that kind of sold the strength last week around, the resistance around 2100 or 2115, or maybe even shorted that area, are going to be looking into this down open to perhaps cover, because you had the weakness giving clues for today, Friday, or if you sold the strength, maybe we could be, getting a viable dip for some red to green moves today. So at this point, I think, today, tomorrow's going to be pretty interesting as far as this intermediate area of the range.
I have the S&P or the spider chart up here. Your SPY gap level to watch them last week is 209.30. We are trading below that area. See if the bulls can protect that and try and reclaim Friday's low of 209.68. S&P's just made a new low for the session here, but bouncing back. That is right back at Wednesday's low, so that's coordinating with the area that Scott's talking about. On the spiders, let's just go into some individual issues here and some pretty good movement here in some stocks. First, let's start, get your analysis of that Twitter action from Friday.
Well, a lot of people have been saying that Twitter's going to have its big bounce once the CEO leaves, and I tend to always short those type of bounces, or at least stay away, because once the CEO leaves, you have even more disarray than when the CEO was there. And I understand that some people didn't like him and that he didn't get the initiatives going, blah, blah, blah. So on Thursday, when I was doing the recap, the news came out, and it was up like $2 or 8%, and people are like, what do I do? I'm like, if you can handle it, maybe short it. If not, I wouldn't be at least chasing it here. And the guys that were actually positioned long into that zone, the tier one, like, what do I do? I'm like, sell into that strength. It's a basic gift. So the way it closed on Friday is probably pretty discouraging as far as people involved in them now, because now you have the CEO left. It's still trading in this lower range. They sold the news, and now I think next time it gets in play again, it's got to have to be from lower, considering that the 35.55 pivot low is right here, and then underneath it you have the next level of what is that 34.62, and then below that is a 32. So it's just there's like nothing right now that the shorts are going to be super scared of, except for a potential deal, which, in my opinion, if there is one, is multiple months away. And, at this point, it could just, be pretty much trending lower until we get closer to earnings. And at this point, I don't think this quarter's earnings are going to be anything great either. So, I've been just kind of avoiding it, and, hopefully people then, chase that up move on Thursday into Friday.
Let's go into some of the high beta names. Your comments that they remain choppy. Let's talk about the highest of the beta. Apple trading range here. Kind of, if you put the chart over the S&Ps, as Dennis was talking, it's pretty much the same thing here. Any potential setups here in Apple?
The last thing to really watch was, how would it respond back into that resistance, which is like a trend line that's been pretty much getting outlined, that went into the 130 area. If you look at Apple, you'll see it slightly pushed above it on Thursday, and then gave you an outside day around that 129.34, which, that just for people to know, that's the red dog reversal pattern. So, if you look at the chart of Apple, you'll see that if you're an investor in Apple, that's one thing. You've been holding it for multiple years. You've done very well. These little moves do not, you don't need to worry about them. But you look at last week on the chart, and you'll see that on Tuesday, you had a red dog reversal around the pivot of 126.83. So if you use that strategy and bought some on Tuesday and said, I'm going to hold it into Wednesday, you had a nice day and a half move, and if you said, oh, I like the action on Wednesday, I'm going to hold it and look for a signal on Thursday. And on Thursday, you got your sell signal when it pushed above 129.34. Squeezed some people, fell to the trend line, and then closed on the lows. So when you're in a choppy environment and trendless, you could use that type of strategy for entries, for exits, and some guys might have even shorted into that, saying, oh, you know what, it fell to the trend line, it's not been acting well, it's not leading the market. Then Friday, you had your follow-through downside, and they give you absolutely no reason to buy it on Friday. It closed on the dead lows. It was weak all day. So now into this down open, maybe there's a buyable spot. The pivot I'm going to watch against is 125.62. That's last week's low. And you also have the 100-day, which we've been up above for a while. So I think, for back to the market, I think what's going to be important to watch today to see whether or not this down open to give you a buyable trade is one, if Apple could hold 125.60 to 126. Okay, and then also if the banks that have been super duper strong, could continue to ride their 8 and 21 day, which they're probably going to be testing at some point today.
All right, let's move on to another just incredible stock, Netflix here. Upgrades, rumors of the split here. Is this thing, is it coming on your radar at all? I know you were like, for the last few weeks, you're like, don't short it, don't short it. Is it getting any interest from you on the downside here? We are trading lower in the pre-market. Netflix is down $9.38 here. Any take on Netflix?
Yeah, you had that last little capitulation move to the upside when they authorized more shares, but they never came out and said if they're going to do a 3-for-1, a 4-for-1, an 8-for-1. So none of that has happened yet. You have news that Alibaba is going to be doing some kind of Netflix type service in China. So maybe with the futures, that's giving a little bit of weakness. So you look at the 8-day. The 8-day has been support pretty much, for most of 2015, ever since that gap up after the last earnings. So, the 8-day is now close to 644. So you have the gap low of 652 from that authorization day. That close was 649. So between 644 and 648, I'll be looking to see if I can, find some pivot to perhaps try and be long verse, because, it was just as high as almost 700. So down at 650-ish or below, 40 to 50 points lower, you haven't got that kind of dip in Netflix in a while. And I'm sure once you get down there, it could be, the risk reward could be good, because also shorts could be a little scared that at any time they could announce what type of split it is. And that's, been the entry. So until the trend changes, the trend's your friend. I think we've heard that once or twice in the past 30
Yeah,
years.
yeah. I mean, one thing, if you shorten it to common and something comes out on the on the news of the split, I mean, you're gonna get run over. So maybe using options or something. But that's a good point. The trend is definitely up here. Scott's keeping an eye on the 644 area. Amazon been kind of quiet. Came off its highs here after earnings. Kind of stubborn and filling the gap here. Not much news as of late on Amazon here. What do you make of this long consolidation after earnings?
What do I make of it? I make it that it's been a frustrating trade, especially for me, and especially for momentum traders that thought it was going to break above 438 or 440 a few times and failed. I know I was a few weeks ago. I think I was probably the heaviest. I was in Amazon on 6:30, which was June 3rd. It looked like it closed finally above 434, and then the next day it got stopped out when it took out that prior, the low of that day. Thank goodness, because it went all the way back down to the lower end of the range. So Thursday it tested the high end of the range again. Friday was a little lower. So I think there was a small upgrade on it today. And if the market's going to be any good and not fall apart, you would think that you might be able to nibble on Netflix on the third down day. So it's been better to buy it into weakness versus adding on strength, which unfortunately is not the way we like to do things. So 428.26 is Friday's low. I think it's only down about $1.50, $2 pre-market. So I'll see if this is one of the first high beta names to go green today. If it does, maybe I'll nibble a little bit and then see how it reacts. If it can't go green on an upgrade and banks don't have a bid and Apple loses that level and this and that, I'm probably just going to stay away and say I don't want to deal with that kind of loose and wide stock on a day like today.
Okay, moving on to some of the other social names besides Twitter here. Facebook, that's kind of been hanging out here over $80 here. Been kind of choppy. Any ideas for Facebook traders out there?
Yeah, this is probably a day to take a look at it. If you remember on Tuesday it reversed, right, and then gave you a solid day Wednesday, and then again, just like Apple, it gave you that red dog reversal around that pivot, which was 82.60. Traded above 82.60, couldn't hold it. It was actually a little stronger than other things on Friday, so down 50 cents today. That'll be a candidate for me, to see if it could hold the 80-ish area. Both moving averages are curling in around 80.50. So I would think that if we are going to be able to, have a viable day today, Facebook would be something that could go green, as it's been one of the stronger social media names out there. But if all of a sudden it's down 50 cents and, it goes down $1 and feels heavy, and Netflix can't come off lows and Apple breaks that level, and, the spiders can't hold, 208.70, you'll know that today could be more of a trend down day, get out of the way. But if, again, some of these leaders act better, and the levels on the indices that we go over in a little bit at the end of the day, hang in there. This is something that should be on your radar, with also, some of the cyber security stocks.
LinkedIn got off the mat here, traded under 200 for quite some time. Caught a little bit of a bounce, and then I don't know if it was J.P. Morgan or Morgan Stanley that came out last week. It's some positive on it here, bumping up against the 220. Looks like 210 to 220 has been the range. Any thoughts on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think it could be a trade setting up, and I actually held LinkedIn for most of last week until on Friday. I took all my risk off and I stopped myself out of it when it traded below that 216.36, which was Thursday's low. So I'd say if you're in LinkedIn and you want to give it some room, maybe be long versus 210.32, which is the gap from that upgrade. And if the market does hold in there and it wants to give you another trade, it could get some momentum above that 219.64, which would open it up to, filling more of this gap. But for right now, it's just in a tight range, and got to figure out how micro or macro you want to be on it. So I think if you're in it still from the gap up, you find these 210. If you're not in it at all, maybe it starts getting back above 216, 217. Get a feeler on for then potentially high volume break above the 219 and change.
All right,
Me,
we only got like 2 minutes left here, so I just want to throw a few issues out at you here. Get your quick take. FireEye, FEYE. Looks like one of the
FireEye
few. Yeah.
and See You Red on Friday looked good and told in the 8-day. That's something I would look to today. If the market bounces today, maybe get some momentum above 52.50.
Micron Technology, favorable link in Barron's, downgrade today, trading down in the pre-market. Any thoughts on Micron?
Just, broke its trend a while back. It's below every moving average. So when it's like that, you take care. If you think that it's oversold enough and it's down, and, see if there's a 15-minute low, buy versus that. And then if it breaks that, get out of the way and try it again another time down the road.
Okay, and another stock everyone likes to talk about, Tesla Motors, TSLA.
Seems to have stalled out a little bit last week, but still looks fine. The 21 days has been the roadmap for this ever since it broke its downtrend in April. So I would say if you're long it, use 245 to 246 as your stop, and if it continues to hold and build above that, maybe there's another move to take out the weekly highs. But I would use 245 as your pivot to trade against.
Okay, one other one for you here. It seems to be like day traders and love to talk about this one. Mankind, MNKD, big bump. I thought this thing was going to stop at 6, went all the way to 7, over $7. Now pulling back here. What do you think of this pharma stock?
I don't know. I really don't, trade that actively stocks that are below $10.
Okay.
Just looking just at the chart, it, had a big move from 360 to almost 7 and change. Pulled back a third of that. If it's down today with the futures, maybe buying it into the $5, $5.20 area is a spot that you would think it would hold if it's any good.
Scott Redler, Chief Strategist at T3 Live and T3 Trading Group, joins us every Monday. Give us a wide range of stocks to take a look at. We'll see if the S&Ps and some of these momos can catch a bounce here. We're in the area of Wednesday's low. Thanks a lot, Scott. Have a great day, great week. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.